Hello and welcome to the World Jazz Show. Hello, jazz fans, and welcome to the World Jazz Show with your host, Bill Batskill. You just heard On the Road from Michael Mason on his spring 2023 release compact disc project titled Impermanence. The World Jazz Show is created by AVG Records from Poplar Grove, Illinois. When you get the opportunity, you can visit our website at www.fireflute.com, where you can listen to multiple selections from all of Michael Mason's recording projects, where we are in the process of setting up our website so you can purchase all of them on the discography and store page. Michael Mason is the creator and composer of jazz and world music original compositions, and he has worked with many Chicago area jazz musicians and special guest musicians since 1983. Joining him on the road were his bandmates led by Danny Gessling on handpans, hand drums, Jeff Lowe on bass, Aris Biscus, Jose Natal, Samir Zayed on percussion, and Fareed Haq on acoustic nylon strings guitar. On today's show, we are being joined by Michael Mason. Hello and welcome, Michael. How are you today?
I'm great, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
We just heard a selection from your newest CD, On the Road, from the Impermanence recording project that we're planning to come out with in spring of 2023. Let's talk about the musicians that you've worked with in regards to this show.
Well, this album, there's pretty much a lot of assembly of the same people. We kind of vary it here and there, but the people that are involved with it, you know, our bassist, our guitarist, and our percussionist, and various people. I've got a lot of people on each record, usually about 8 or 9 guys that work with me on a regular basis. So,
how did you meet Danny? He is such an interesting character to work with.
Yeah, he's quite the character. He's Danny. It was basically a working drummer. Working a lot of clubs, a lot of the areas throughout the Midwest. He's been in several groups and stuff, but he was a drummer. And we just happened to meet one day. He asked me to sit in. I sat in with a couple of progressive rock groups that he was doing with, and they asked me to come up and play some flute with him and stuff. So that's how I got to meet him. And I turned him on. I remember I started using these hand pans before him. And I started training them or learning them, And then I had asked him, hey, would you be interested in doing playing hand pans? I'll come over to my studio and I'll turn you on to him. Tell me what you think. And he loved them. And so he started picking up on it. And he's one of the main hand pan players besides me that play on these albums. So
great. Jeff Lowe, who plays bass, has just been an inspiration with our group. For engineering and creativity. I played a song on my first podcast for the Healing that we put on, Angels of Fire, and it's such a beautiful ballad that he created. And how do you create the ideas with him? It's just amazing. Talk about him a little bit.
Jeff Lowe I've known for, 30 years?
Yes.
Been a long time. We've been in and out of jazz groups. We've been crossing each other's paths for many years. And so it was a jazz thing. And then I had mentioned him. I saw him over at the Bloom School of Jazz one day because I had gone down to see David Bloom. And he just happened to be walking down Wabash the same time I was. And I was going in to see David, and so was he, and we started talking, and then I told him that I was working on these compositions for world music and jazz, and he just said, hey man, I want to check it out, and we started working together. So basically the musical concepts are always introduced by me. He's a great theorist. So he can, help assemble things the way I'm envisioning them. If there's sometimes I work with a workstation. So it's a really good collaboration. We've got, certain things that we use, and he understands my work. I think that's the best way to put it. And plus the fact he's an incredible bassist. So.
Also, we have a gentleman by the name of Aris Biscus with us who we've worked with for many, many years, who is just a creative genius. Talk about Aris a little bit.
Man, Aris, he's another totally unique individual. He's I met Aris many years ago. Again, he's been with us, as you know, on several albums and stuff. But I went out to his place when I first met him, and I was working with a lot of percussion players, but I really wanted something unique. And he invited me out to his house one day. This is when his mother, I believe, was still alive. So I had this beautiful home, very unusual place, sitting on about 5 acres, if you can believe that, in the middle of the Downers Grove area, which is hard land to come by. But here is a guy that just makes percussion instruments, plays percussion instruments. He plays all sorts of drums, rain sticks. He has, even on his property, you could go out there and he would carve things out of wood or something, and you would go run around and you could be hitting these things to get different sounds, and he would create a conglomerate of sounds and effects and whistles, and it almost like he could create his own forest. It was unbelievable. So he has been a big part of adding a lot of the textures and stuff and interesting aspects to the music, and he's still a solid percussion player, and he's a great drummer.
Yes. We also got to meet, starting with our Human Revolution and Transcendence projects, Jose Natal on percussion. He really adds some texture to your music. It's amazing.
Yeah, Jose's knowledge in percussion and drums is phenomenal. He understands the ethnic history in his drum playing and his traditions. I ran into him. There was a school on Division Street in Chicago, and I forgot the name of it, African something, Afro, whatever. And he was teaching out there, and I just gave it a long shot. And I called up the school. I said, man, I need a solid African drum type player, and sure enough, man, he popped up. That's the first thing they told me about him, and then we started our relationship. So he's holding down. He's got some great drums, and he can hold down the fort. I'll tell you that. So
we were also joined on this last CD, the Impermanence CD, a gentleman by the name of Samir Zayed, who played a very different instrument, a Kenvork tabla. And I looked at the internet, and I said, these are some just unbelievable pieces of equipment. Can you describe how he created this work? And
Samir, we call him Sammer. Met him through Danny Gessling. We happen to, once in a while, we get together for this local tavern here, and the owner is the guy that owns the tavern. Said, hey, I've got a cousin. I think it's a cousin that I played our music for him, and he said, man, I'd love to do that. I play tabla, but it's what they call tabla. I believe it's more of an Eastern thing. It's not quite what you would think of as tablas, but it's more like djembe or something like that. But these are custom drums that he plays, and he comes truly from the authenticity of the instrument. I mean, he learned, through the traditional works of playing that instrument. So he's a mainstay, and I want to get him more involved as we go along, because I think he'd become a great handpan player also.
Well, I'm getting to our electric part, where we've got Fareed Haq and Scott Ashley on guitars. It's just amazing in regards to the textures that they can create with their strings, whether it's nylon or whatever they're doing. It's amazing. Talk about those two guys.
Well, Scott Ashley, we go back again, way back in the jazz days. I pulled him in. Scott was a great guitarist. I mean, he is an all-around player. He's played with several groups, several orchestras. He's so well-versed. His technique and his mode of thinking is just crystal clear. But that's how I got to know him. I kind of brought him into the jazz world a little bit more. He was more into pop, R&B, maybe did a lot of rock things with Sonia Dada and things like that. But I knew that he was a good player, so I brought him into my music, year in and year out. So he's just become a mainstay for me in regards to the electrical or electric guitar. So that's it. And Fareed, well, we go back again. This all goes back to the Sparrow days, or when we were at Southport Records. That's where we first met Fareed. And got to know him really well. Played a couple of things with him in regards to, I believe Joni Pilato was singing or making some albums. So we stayed in touch on and off throughout the years. But Fareed is an incredible guitarist as well. He's a great electric guitar player. But what I enjoy about Fareed, he's got really good command of the classical type of guitar, the nylon string guitar, so.
Sounds great. In many of your compositions, the use of a wide variety of percussion instruments seems to weave in and out of the music, especially the use of the hang drums, or what is better known as handpans, that you play, as well as some of the musicians in your project. What brought you to the use of these instruments into your compositional work?
Well, when I discovered the handpan, it was through, I believe I saw something years ago on YouTube, and I was always intrigued by him. And you have to understand that this instrument is relatively new to the industry. I believe it in 2001 was the first set of what they call hung, which is a company, I believe, hung drums. And they started making these drums. So I tried, what I did is I just stayed on it, studied a little bit, started getting and purchasing these handpans and learning them through teachers online and guys that would talk to me about it, and trying to develop my own style of playing. And then starting after, you have to learn them first. They're a modal instrument, meaning that it's a series of notes. Everyone says they look like spaceships, but they create they create quite an atmospheric sound. And that's what I loved about them. They created a mode, and they created an atmosphere. And it really kicked off my thinking in creating compositions for them. And then now I had to find out, because I couldn't play it all. I can't play flute, handpans, piano, and everything at one time. So that's why I needed guys like Danny to come in, percussion players. And this is how it all comes down. So
great.
Down.
Yes, we work with some phenomenal handpan manufacturers: Pantheon Steel, Saraz, Zenith, Ravast. Can you tell us, in regards to the manufacturers, what do you look for when you search their product and research it and want to use it for your recordings?
I believe the first handpan I got was through Kyle Cox. I think it was a Pantheon Steel one.
Yes.
Pantheon Steel, which I knew was a reputable firm. I had researched a lot of these handpan makers, and some of them are, most of them now are just, you have to understand, there was very few of them way back when, and then more and more of these guys were starting to make and got their own companies and started developing their own instruments. So I went by word of mouth. In other words, Kyle would kind of introduce me. And then Colin Falk was another, Colin was another one with these Zenith. He now calls them Zenith handpans, or the particular brand he's making now. But I go by what these guys tell me to play, or to, I'm not just going to go out, because you can make some pretty bad mistakes. These instruments are extremely expensive. We're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for each handpan, and they have to be well taken care of. So, but yeah, I rely on who's playing them and the people that are making them for me to make decisions on why we have the manufacturers we do. And like I said, I think there's 4 or 5. So.
Welcome back. We're back here with Michael Mason in the podcast. Michael, how do you play now compared to earlier in your career? I mean, regarding technique and staying up on your facility of your instruments.
Are you talking about the flute?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, remember, I don't know if many people know this. I started out as a guitarist, and I acquired the instrument by accident, really. Probably a little later than usual, around maybe 20, 21. But anyways, I basically started learning off of records. I kind of dug it. I was learning off of crazy things. Ian Anderson, Jethro Tull. I was bastardizing the instrument, basically. And I lucked out one day, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to get a good teacher. And I went down to the Sherwood School and auditioned at their conservatory. I didn't think I'd make it. Call came in a couple of weeks later, so to speak, and my first understudy was with Joseph Zeroff of the Chicago Lyric, and he knew I was horrible, so he kind of helped me out playing, and then I just kept practicing and practicing. We're talking hours, every day. And then as I got better and better, as far as your question, I mean, what am I doing now in regards to before? Well, I used to practice hours and hours a day. Now, you get to the point where you maintain a facility on your instrument, and I don't rest on past things. You know what I mean? In regards to some guys will just practice. Okay, I got it. And no, I truly want to try to play better every time I can. So I'm hoping my recordings show that, and my albums that come out show the versatility of me dealing with that instrument.
Well, jazz fans, it's coming up to closing time. We're going to be playing one last song from Michael Mason, titled Pathways. Michael, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I want to say thank you very much. Again, happy Valentine's Day to your wife, Nancy Mason. And it's been a pleasure talking with you today. And we're going to be signing off.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me a lot. It's awesome. It's been great working with you all these years as well. So,
all righty. Thank you very much.